We're continuing in the portion of the Chumash we're learning this week, which is Vayigash. And now, as the story progresses, so last week we learned that Yosef had been sold by his brothers into Egyptian captivity, and that in the end of the captivity, he told he interpreted some dreams. He interpreted some dreams, and that he got, because of he interpreted the dreams. So eventually, because of this, when Paro had some dreams that troubled him, as Paro heard that Yosef was good at interpreting dreams, so he took him out of prison, and Yosef miraculously interpreted his dreams exactly the way he wanted to hear. Gave him wonderful advice, and this elevated Yosef to be the king of the world, the virtual king of the world, de facto. And then a famine hit the whole world, and of course the advice that Yosef gave, the interpretation that Yosef gave to Paro, was that there was going to be a famine. He predicted the famine, and he told Paro to save up food to save the world. And Paro said, okay, you know what, Yosef, you'll be the director of this whole thing. You'll sell the food to everybody. And so Yosef gets money from everybody. Everyone's coming down to buy food, including his brothers and his father. First, his brothers came down because they were the ones that sold him into captivity. And they didn't know that he had risen to be king. And in this week's Torah portion, he reveals that he's the king. That's it. That it was a good thing that they sold him, even though their intentions were the worst, but the results were the best. And so therefore, they shouldn't worry, and now they're all going to be together again. So Yosef calls his brothers and he tells them, go and bring my father Yaakov. I haven't seen him for so long. Please bring him down to Egypt. So he hasn't seen him for like 13 years, and his father thinks that he's dead. And they go and they tell Yaakov, Yosef is still alive. And Yosef says, they tell Yaakov, Yosef is still alive. Okay, this is where we got up to yesterday. Here is old Yaakov. He's like, 130 years old. And they tell him, Yosef is still alive. Vayomer Love called Dibra Yosef. They went back to Yaakov and said all the words that Yosef said. They showed him the wagons that he gave, and he came back to life. That's where we were yesterday. Yaakov. And Yisroel. Now he's called Yisroel, because if you remember Yaakov, after he fought and defeated this angel, so his name got changed to Yisroel as well. But from now we're going to see that names become interchanged. So Yisroel said, Rav, it's enough, O Yosef Chai, that my son Yosef is alive. Yosef, my son, is alive. I will go and see him before I die. Rashi, Rav Lach, it's enough that he's alive. Rashi says, Rav, it's enough to me, the joy and the happiness that I have because my son Yosef is alive. That's just enough. But just the fact that I know that he's alive, that's sufficient. Even more now, I'm going to go and see him as well. Says the Kli Yakar. Lefi, because Shevticho HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that God promised to Yaakov, Shem lo yamut, that if he does not die, one of his sons, Bechayav, that if all of his sons were still alive before he died, and there's none of his sons would die in his lifetime, then lo yira pnei Gehinnom, then he would not see any purification after he died. He wouldn't go to hell. The Yizke lamash ne'amar, he'll mirror to what it says, ma rav tuvacha shet samata l'recha. He'll mirror to what's called, how good is the concealment that you hid for those who fear you, which basically that means the raising of the dead. Now, usually everybody who dies, they have to go through some period of purification because the body is connected to the soul. Remember, we learned that also in Torah Or. But Yaakov was promised by God that God said, I'm going to give you a sign that you will avoid all of this purification process after you die. And what's the sign? The sign is, if all of your children are alive when you die, then it's a sign that you will not have to be purified and you'll merit to all of the highest levels of revelation of God and the raising of the dead. Okay, and therefore, and now, up to now, Yaakov thought that Yosef was dead, and therefore, that was the sign that he was not going to receive this. Now that Yosef was still alive, and so he knew he was going to get this Rav Tuvcha, this great good that God hid for him. Okay, and therefore, Omri said, Khan here, Rav, the word Rav. Now, I will merit to the Schar Olam Haba, to the reward of the raising of the dead, which is called Rav. Because this is what's called the day, which is totally long. Which is not the case in this world, which that's why we're going to see. Yaakov is going to say, we'll see that tomorrow. Yaakov said, my life is bad, is small and bad. As the Rebbe pointed out, that his life was not small. It was 130 years old, which is more than what most people lived in those days. And it certainly wasn't bad. I mean, it was bad. Now he was together with his children. So we'll see. It says, no, all of the time that he's living in this world, as he's aware that there's this tremendous good that's waiting for him. So kilo harbe yizkor yamei chayav, because not many would remember what Yaakov did in his life. Or also, shekavar kibel onish, Yaakov already received his punishment. Al bittul mitzvahs kibud aviv b'olam hazeh. You remember when Yaakov, when he ran away from Esav, so all that time he was hidden away. He did not visit his father. It didn't let his father know that he was alive. So Yitzchak also suffered the same thing. Yitzchak also thought, his father thought that he was dead. So basically, he did to his father something like what Yosef did to him. So now, because Yosef was gone, so he'd been purified. He had suffered the same suffering as his father did. So now, Yekabel Schar, now he can receive his complete reward in the world to come. Lokach, therefore, he said, Yizbach, Vayizbach Zvachim. Oh, therefore it said he made offerings to the God of his father Yitzchak. And he didn't mention Abraham. We'll see that in the next second. Ela Sharatza Lataken, he wanted to fix up with what the pain that he gave to his father Yitzchak, and to give back honor to him. Here it says over here that he went and his whole family took them to Beersheba, and he made sacrifices to the God of his father Yitzchak. In other words, of course, there's only one God, but his father Yitzchak will spend his whole life worshiping the God of the Jews, and Yaakov gave his father all this pain when he ran away from him. All the time that he was in the house of Lavan, says for it was 20 years he was in Lavan. He didn't let his father know that he was alive over there. So there he got punished for that. And this is how, and he got rid of that punishment by the suffering that Yosef gave him. Right. So where are we now? It says, there we go. And here's another opinion. Rav, what does it mean? Rav owed. He said, Rav, it is enough. Rav owed also. So it says the word Rav, he said, is talking about this tremendous pleasures of the raising of the dead that he's going to get. Another explanation. Rav owed Yosef ben Ichai What are you saying? That Yosef is the ruler of the whole land of Egypt? Rav Adaili Shuchai. You don't have to tell me that he's a big king or anything. I don't care if he's a street sweeper. The fact is, my son is still alive. That's enough for me. Daili Korat is enough pleasure that I get from the fact that he's alive. And I don't care if he's the king or he's not. Rav Od, it's just enough that my son is alive. That's enough for me. Here's the Dat Zakanim. It says, Rav Od, that Yaakov, Yisroel, said, it's just enough for me that my son is alive. What does it mean? Rav. It is Rav, a lot, Od, enough. Yaakov, he was called Rav to the one who brought these wagons, like Rav Chuvel, like the captain of a ship is called Rav Chuvel. And he said, Rav, he said the owner of the one who was bringing all these wagons, is it really true that my son is still alive? Because I believe you more than I believe my own sons. My sons, I don't know whether to believe them or not. Here they've been lying to me. I suddenly realized they've been lying to me all this time. They told me that he was devoured by a wild animal. Now I see that they're all lying. Tell me the truth. He asked the driver, the wagon driver, another opinion, right? That bought all these wagons. Rav, he said the captain of the wagons. Oh, Joseph, is it really true that my son Joseph is alive? Another explanation. His sons that came back, they were talking a lot about how great Yosef was. Therefore, he said to them, Rav, enough. Stop talking about this. You said my son is alive. Really true? If it's really true, then I'll go and I'll see him. You don't have to explain to me that he's a king. I don't even care. Something like what we said by the Kli Yakar. Okay, next, Yisroel, and it took everything that he had, and he went to Beersheba. Remember, that was Beersheba was where the Avos lived, where Avram Yitzchak lived, and he made sacrifices to the God of his father Yitzchak. We went to Beersheba. It says Beersheba. Beersheba means to Beersheba. He explains in grammatically that if it has a hey at the end, it's the same thing as it has a lamed in the beginning. Le Beersheba. To the God of his father Yitzchak. What about his grandfather? Avram also lived there. Says a person has to give honor to his father more than he has to give honor to his grandfather. Therefore, he said he's giving honor to Yitzchak and not to Avram. A huge, beautiful Ramban where he explains this idea of giving sacrifices and the sacrifices that Noah made, etc. He said to the God of his father Yitzchak, why to Yitzchak? So the Sforno of Rav Avadia from Sforno said, why to his father Yitzchak? Because God told Yitzchak that he should never go down to Egypt. And now Yaakov is going down to Egypt. He's doing what his father was told not to do. God said to Yisroel, again, he's called Yisroel, in a vision of the night. And he said, Yaakov, Yaakov. He said, Yaakov, Yaakov. And Yaakov said, Hineni, here I am. Yaakov, Yaakov is a language of dearness, of endearment. He said, Bayomer Yaakov Yisrael. Why is he now calling him Masha Omer Lono? What is this? Why? Because he was Yisrael. He spoke to him, he called him Yaakov. Why does it say that God spoke to Yisrael? The name is interchangeable. Sometimes he's called Yisrael, sometimes it's called Yaakov. So here we see that God calls him Yaakov. So why doesn't it say that God spoke to Yaakov? Why does he use the name Yisrael? He says, that what it says now is that God is speaking to Yaakov is because he is Yisrael. Namely what? That his children are going to have to do the same thing that he did. He fought with an angel. His children are going to have to also fight with their enemies in Canaan. Aloivim Canaan. Then now all of his children are going down into Egypt, as they're going to have the same trouble. They're going to have the same fortitude as he did. Vayomer Anochi Ha'el. God spoke, is speaking to Yaakov. I am the God, the Lord of your fathers. Avram Yitzchak. Don't be afraid of going down to Egypt, because I'm going to make you a great nation there. Why should you be afraid of going down to Egypt? So we have an Orach Chaim. Maybe I'll just say this in a short way. Orach Chaim says, why would he be afraid? What's he got to be afraid of going down to Egypt? Another thing is how is this calming him down by saying that don't worry, you're going to be a big nation over there. I'm going to make you into a big nation over there in Egypt. How is that calming down his fears? What is he afraid of anyway? That he's not going to be a great nation, was he? So the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, Rav Chaim Ben Attar, he says the intention is like this. Before, when God told Avram and Yitzchak that there was going to be a decree of exile, especially to Abraham, that they were going to go down into exile. Like it says, Gir Yezaracha, your offspring are going to be strangers, and how do you say, like prisoners in a strange land. Probably Avram told his sons, Yitzchak also, that he's going to be and so it is also clear, Asher al Kain, therefore when Yaakov saw that there was food in Egypt, and that there he knew now it was going to begin this exile, so he was afraid. Because he was the one that's now going to begin this exile. It's going to start with him. Also, he was also afraid that maybe he would be buried there in Egypt, an impure place. He wouldn't be buried with Abraham and Yitzchak together. Therefore, now God is revealing himself and saying to him, don't worry. Anochi Hashem, I am the God of your fathers. What does it mean, I am the God of their fathers? God intended by this to say, Kashem, just like your fathers, Lo Tam Tam Shibu, just like your fathers, they never were enslaved, the Inui, and they were never tortured. So also the same thing with you. Al Tira, don't be afraid, even though it's true and you're going down to Egypt. Don't worry, you're not going to see any enslavement. That your sons are going to be enslaved after you, that's my thing. It's not yours. Not because of you. It has to start somewhere. Yaakov thought, okay, listen, maybe I'll go down and I'll come back up to the land of Canaan, Mitzrayim, as soon as the famine stops. After the years of famine stop, then, the only reason I'm coming down into Egypt is just to, see my son Yosef and get some food. And Yosef called me. So what I'm going to do is, as soon as the famine stops, maybe I'll go back to Canaan. That's my place. That's the promised land. That's why God said, don't be afraid. You're only going to be a little bit of time over there in Egypt, 17 years. Therefore, he finished in saying, I'm going to make you into a big nation there. What does it mean? I'm going to make you there, that you're going to be a huge nation, the Jewish people. You should think about this, contemplate. In order to make him contemplate, God said that, I'm sorry. Akatim. In order to understand what this is, says the Orach Chaim, I want to precede the words of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and the people that were also together with him in his secrets of the Torah. The Omru, this is written in Lakuti Torah of the Arizal. It says the reason for this exile, why did Yaakov go down into Egypt? The reason for the exile was the Varer, to refine Chelke HaKedusha, the holiness that was scattered in the arms of the Klippa, in the branches of the Klippa of evil. The Kibbutz Mitzrayim, and in Egypt, Liyoto Malek Galulim, because Egypt was full of idolatry, and there was very powerful impurity. Shamu Shaviat Chelke Chedusha. There is where the most holiness is imprisoned with a tremendous amount, because according to the amount of impurity, there inside of it is purity. That's how it was before the Jews went into Egypt. And this was from the day that Adam sinned. From that day, Sholta Shivcha Ra Benitzutzi Kedusha. From the day that Adam sinned, so egotism, selfishness, idolatry, evil ruled over holiness. The Einei Kol Yisroel, and the eyes of all the Jewish people were longing for this, and all of the exiles that the Jews are in, and especially the exile of Egypt. Namely, what? To know that the reason that they're there is for a holy purpose, to somehow or other, by their experiences there, by their maintaining faith in God and doing what God wants, even under such terrible conditions, as that elevates the holiness that's in the place. And that's what God said. When you go out of Egypt, you're going to go to Mount Sinai. You and all the people that are imprisoned in the exile, the impurity of Egypt. And that's what Moses said. Moses, the prophet of God, said, Mi Goy Gadol, who is a great nation like the Jews. Therefore, God intended, when he spoke to Yaakov, that God wanted to tell him that I agree, I'm pleased that you're going to go into Egypt and you're going to become a great nation. Because why? You are going to over there destroy the evil of Egypt. And don't worry, I'm going to take you out of there. And if it wasn't for the fact that Yaakov went down into Egypt, there would be no way that the evil, selfishness, and egotism of Egypt would be defeated. Because of the whole great holiness of Yaakov, he drew to him all of the holy sparks that were there, which is not the case. If Yaakov would not have gone down there, no one else except for him could have done it. Therefore, we find the rabbis saying that Yaakov did not die. It says Yaakov Avinu lo meit. He did not die until he saw the 600,000 children that came from his loins. Oh, this 600,000 that suffered over there afterwards and were refined in what's called the crucible of the iron crucible of Egypt. Egypt, and then they came out refined. So Yaakov, in other words, in just the 18 years that he was there, he already saw that the Jews were fruitful and they were multiplying. It says that they gave birth to 6 children at a time. And so we find out that Yaakov felt that God's will was that he should remain there. And he was promised that he shouldn't be afraid because of what the things that are going to happen. First of all, he wouldn't experience it. And second of all, it was all for a really, really good purpose. What about the idea that maybe he was going to be buried in Egypt? Therefore, God said, I'm going down with you and I'm going to come up. We'll see the next sentence. God says, I will go down with you, still speaking to Yaakov in Yisroel, Yaakov, in Beersheba. God said, this is the vision that Yaakov is seeing when he's asleep. I will go down with you into Egypt, and I will elevate you also. And Yosef, he will put his hands on your eyes. What does this mean, Rashi? God promised him that he will be buried in the land of Israel, says Rashi. Again, the Or HaChaim says, here he means to say, Anochi. Why did God to say, I will go down and I will? God is trying to say that who's going to save you from Egypt? Me personally. That's like God says, V'yotzi'enu Hashem, not by means of an angel, but God in himself, his essence, will take the Jews out of Egypt. Ani anochi b'kavodi elecha, I myself will take you out of Egypt. Here, let's see one more. I will take you out. When God put the Jews into Egypt, it says there were 70 souls that went into Egypt. God counted himself as one of them. God in his essence, because it says that if you count all the people, we're going to have the list of all the people, you'll only find 69. And it says the 70 people went in. And it says 70 people went down to Egypt. Where's the 70th? So some people say that there was a person called Yocheved. She eventually became the wife of Moses. And she went down to Egypt with him. She was born, and just as they were coming into Egypt, she was born. But there's another explanation that God counted himself as one of the 70 that went in. Harisha Nimna Kodesh Baruch Hu, the God was counted with them. And there were 70. And also when they came out, there were 600,000. If you count how many there were, 600,000, it says that really there was one missing. And God counted himself also. Davar Acher, another explanation. God said, I will go up with them. Lo tal el datcha, don't think, sheti Hashem Yerud. Don't think that the descent in Egypt is really a permanent descent. In gadol u'ma'ulati Hashem. You will be a tremendous elevation will acquire to the Jewish people, even when they're there. They saw tremendous miracles. It says that 6 children were born at one time, and that they suckled from rocks in the field, gave them milk. Amazing miracles. And the Egyptians were doing everything they could to find them. They plowed the fields in order to find these children. They heard that the Jewish women were hiding their children under the ground, and they plowed the ground, and God saved them. Amazing miracles. If you just think about it, I mean, the Jews were only in Egypt altogether for 210 years. That's as long as they were there. They went down, there were 70. And in that time, says just only 1/5 of them left. And that 1/5, there was 600,000 just males that were above the age of 20. Some people say from the age of 20 until 60. In any case, there was about 3 million people that went out. So if you count from 200, that 3 million people, that was only 1/5 of the. It says that 4/5 died in the plague of darkness. We'll get to that in a few weeks. So that means that there was 15 million people altogether. What do I say? 3 million people got out. About 15 million people, maybe more, that were in Egypt. 15 million Jews. In the course of 210 years, that's a lot. That's a very great birth rate. And here he said that just in the first 17 years already, they had 600,000. That's what he said before, that Yaakov saw them all. In any case, Yaakov went, and with all of his children, Yaakov Be'er Sheva, and his children, the sons of Yaakov, bore him, they lifted him up, them and their children and their women, their wives, in all of these wagons that Paro sent to bring them. Well, let's go a little bit quicker here. And they took all of their sheep, all their belongings that they got in the land of Canaan. He says all of what they got in the land of Canaan they took, but what they got in Padan Aram, what Yaakov got beforehand when he was by love, and he gave that all to Esav. He gave the whole thing to Esav. So only what they got in the land of Canaan afterwards. They took it all to Yaakov. Yaakov and all of his children with him, his sons, his grandsons with him, his daughters, the daughters of his sons, all of his children went with him to Egypt. They ask a question, what do you mean all their daughters? There was only one. the one granddaughter was Sarach. She was the only one. And Yocheved. And she was the only, right? That was the only. What about also there was Dina? Anyway, these are explained how exactly he came to this conclusion. But it works out. In any case, they all went down. And here's the names. Here we got all the names of the people. You're going to see there's going to be 69 names of the Jews that went down into Egypt, including Yaakov. The firstborn son of Yaakov was Reuven. Let's do this a little bit quickly. The sons of Reuven were Chanuch, Palu, Chetzron, Bakarmi. The sons of Shimon, the second son of Yaakov, born from Leah. His sons were Yemuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yachin, Tzochar, Shaul ben Canaanit. Says, who's the ben of Canaanit? He was the son of Dinah. The Dinah, that she had relations with the Canaani. Some people, okay, she had relations, when was that? When they killed Shem. Shem, it said, raped Dinah. So Shimon, so Dinah was very embarrassed. She was pregnant from this non-Jew, from Shem. So Shimon, her brother, promised that he would marry her. Okay, it was permissible before Bnei Noach. Anyway, he promised that he would marry her. How did a brother marry a sister? The sons of Leah, the sons of Levi were Gershon, Kahat, and Merari. This is going to be very important later on. The sons of Yehuda were Er, Onan, Shelah, Peretz, Zerach. And we learned before that Er and Onan, they died. Remember, that was the whole story with Tamar in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Peretz were Chetzron and Hamul. And eventually from this is going to come, right, going to come Yisha, and King David comes from Peretz. The sons of Yisachar were Tola, Puva, Yoav, Shimron. The sons of Zvulun, right, Yisachar and Zvulun, they were also the sons of Leah. Sered, Elon, Yachleel. These are the sons of Leah that were given birth to Yaakov in Padan Aram. And there was also Dinah. All the people that went down there were 33. Ready? Then there was the sons of, that's the sons of Leah. Now we have the sons of the handmaids. Gad, right? Gad v'Asher. Ba Gad v'Asher. It says that it was, Tzifion, Chagi, Shuni, Esbon, Arieli. Bnei Asher were Yishva, Yishvi, Bria, Serach, Achosam, Serach, the daughter. The son of Bria was Chever Umalkiel. Those are the sons of Zilpah. What about the sons of Bila? Zilpah. Then the sons of Leah, who were they? Two sons, Yosef and Benjamin. Yosef, we already know, he got married to Osnat bat Potiphara, and he had Menashe and Ephraim. Benjamin, says Benjamin, he had 10 sons, and he called them all on the name of Yosef, his brother that he thought was dead. Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, Achi, Rosh, Mufim, Chufim, Ered. All these were called because he was longing for his brother Yosef. These are the sons of Rachel. What about Dan? There was Dan and Naphtali. These were the sons of Bila. Dan had one son, Hushim. Bnei Naphtali was Yachzeel, Guni, Yetzer, Shilem. These are the sons of Bila that was given to Rachel. And these were born to Yaakov. Altogether, all the sons were 70. 70. All the souls that came into Yaakov, that came from the sons of Yaakov, all of them were 66. So if you count Yaakov and you count his wives, so it comes out that Yaakov and his two wives, Rachel and Leah, Here, let's see. Rashi says all the souls that were Yaakov, it says that they came out of the land of Israel, Egypt. They came out of the land of Canaan to go to Egypt. This does not what they came out. It's present. They're coming out, like Erev Ba'ah and etc. Therefore, okay, this is a grammar lesson. What it's talking about. All there were 60 was there were only 66. But then it says, 1 second, all the people that went into Egypt were 70. That's past. And therefore, okay, again, grammar. First of all, in Egypt were already Yosef and his 2 sons. And also Yocheved was being a chomot. So as if you count everybody that went in, including Yaakov and his wives and his handmaids, and they all came in to, you'll find that there is only the children of Yaakov, you'll find out that there was altogether 69. How would it say 7? It says there was Yocheved. Yocheved, she was born right on the boundary as they were coming into Egypt. Okay, some people say, says Rashi, that all of the sons of Yaakov, they were born together with twin sisters. So therefore we have to say, okay, so then there's going to be a lot more. I mean, there's going to be at least, 10 more for the brothers. So, I mean, where do they have, it says they had these children. They had children. Where do they get the children from? Who do they get married to? So it says, well, some of them say that they had twin sisters and each one married the sister of the other one. So why aren't they counted over here? Either we have to say that they were buried, they died before they got into Egypt, because you see that they're not counted over here. But Rashi says, I found in another place that six souls it says Esav had 6 children, and the Torah calls them the souls of his house, the people of his house, a multitude. Why? Because they were serving to a lot of different gods. Yaakov had 70, and they're called not nefashot. By Esav, his children were called 6 souls. And Yaakov, they're called 70 soul. The Chatuv calls those Shivim Nefesh, because they're only serving one God. Okay, how exactly do you come to the number 70? He says there's different ways, different computations. Nevertheless, they come to the number 70. You'll see different explanations of how we get it, but it all comes out okay. The main thing we want to say is that Yaakov came down, called Nefesh, all the soul was 66. It says they're calling Nefashot, 6 plural, but because they were only worshiping one God, so therefore they're called soul. The sons of Joseph that were born in Egypt, he had 2. Altogether, the souls, the people that went into Yaakov, the souls that went into Egypt were 70. And let's do this last one. And Yehuda, Yaakov sent Yehuda, Shalach, Yaakov sent Yehuda to Yosef before everybody else. He went before everybody else. Lahoros, to teach in Goshen, to teach, to show. What is he supposed to show? So there's a couple of explanations, and Rashi says that he went to this place of Goshen in order to clear out the place and to show how they should live there. But he sent it before, Yaakov sent him before he got there. But there's another midrash that says no. What does it mean, lahoros b'fanav? To fix places of learning Torah. That from there would come out laws. because God gave the Torah for it to be learned properly and interpreted properly. How it can be interpreted properly? So there has to be an argument between the different opinions. And that's how learning Torah, to find where the real sources are. So when they went down to Egypt, it was essential that there should be places of learning there before they arrived. And that's why he sent Yehuda. And that's the Rebbe says we're learning in the Devar Malchut, that's the power of the Jewish people. Yehuda was the one that had the courage and the heroism to stand against Yosef. And this he took down into Goshen, into the Torah that he taught, and that he established places of learning Torah before the Jews went into Egypt. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Hope to see you all 8:15 tomorrow morning. God bless you all. Have a good day with Mashiach now.